You're now watching This AFC South Show, brought to you by Curtis Podcast Network, hosted by Curtis Brown, Blake Bellamy, Isaiah Michelli, and Jeff Steckel. Hello, everybody, and welcome to This AFC South Show number 93. Today, we're reacting to the Indianapolis Colts loss to the Houston Texans in the final week of the season. Honestly, it was, before we get into it, huge shout out to everybody who's been helping the page grow, the channel grow. It has been amazing to see the reaction and everybody with all these positive comments. Even if you got negative comments, leave them in the section. You know, we got to learn and grow and whatnot. So, somebody a couple episodes back commented on how Isaiah said that Josh Allen was drafted in 2017. So, call us out when we make faux pas. But, thanks for the support. Thank you for helping this channel grow. And we got a 55 like goal on this one. Let's keep it manageable, okay? Not everybody's in, Texans, Colts kind of mood. So, so let's hit 300 subscribers by the end of this. We're at 294 right now, and that'd be cool if we could hit 3. So hit the buttons. Jeff, let's talk about this game.
Yeah.
Quite a finish there to that game.
Yeah.
I like not the entire season. Houston could never have pulled off a 4th and 20 conversion or a 4th and 10 on the same drive, let alone in the same game. And they did this to win a game that knocked them out of the first overall pick. A lot of people are pissed about it, but I'll save that for a minute. Let's talk about your Colts, man.
Yeah. Saturday had his final obligation in a presser, and he's no longer right now a member of the Colts. That was his final obligation, and then they went into full-blown coaching search, and right now, some names are coming up. I'll get into that later. But, they made Mills look pretty damn good. It helped that Stephon Gilmore didn't play in the game.
Yeah, and Kenny Moore had been put on IR.
Kenny Moore on IR, yeah. But, there's flashes with Ellinger. There were some really boneheaded mistakes. It's kind of what you'd expect from a late-round pick in his third start. There were some boneheaded plays. He was wrapped up by a defender. Just take the sack. Instead, he lobbed it out there and, went for a pick six. So, there were some mistakes, but there was also some really good plays. He had a beautiful pass to Pittman that was dropped.
Yep.
We'll get into Pittman in a minute. But, he finished with, I think, 99 catches on the season. And if he had hit 100, I think he would have been the first receiver to get 100 catches and not have 1,000 yards. So I think I'm kind of glad that he didn't go into that category.
Yeah.
I think that's less than 10 yards per reception. So that's not something you want to go down about. The Colts ran the ball really well.
Yeah.
I think they almost ran for 200 yards. Zach Moss, man, he ran angry. On his, I think it was a 13, 16-yard touchdown run, something like that. He was hit 1 yard behind the line and just barreled through.
Yeah.
So
Zach Moss had a lot of explosive runs.
Yeah, he looked really good. I think him and JT will be a good 1-2 punch. Taylor can run, by you, and Zach Moss is going to run through you. So I think that'll be a nice compliment.
Yeah.
Paris Campbell, up to this season, he played 15 games over the last 3 years. So he had a lot of injury issues. He finished all 17 games. His stats don't really blow off the page, but he was still productive for how abysmal the offense was all year. So, I'm nod to him completing it. He's a free agent. I would like to bring him back, but if it doesn't, at least he was able to get a full season under his belt, and he can, build on that for his career. Pittman, I almost feel like he'd be better off in the slot or something, not as really a number one where you don't have to worry about running past people. It seems like he's more the physical over the middle guy. He, you know, I read things where he was what do like he well, why didn't they throw him the ball to get him the 100? Like he had like 3 drops in the game,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what he does. Like he's going to get you. I mean, typically get you like 8, 10 catches, 70 yards, and a couple of big drops. Like that's what he's going to do in a game. Like I'm kind of eating crow. I went into the season saying, yeah, he's a number one, but I wouldn't put him in there with the Jamar Chase. With like I just wouldn't put him in that in that bracket.
Yeah.
Like we do need a number one. I don't know if Pierce can fill those shoes, but there's a definite need for a top wideout. But there's obviously higher needs at quarterback. Um, in this game, I think Mo Alley Cox got one of the touchdowns. It was only a catch for 4 yards. And then outside of that, Jelani Woods had one catch for 9 yards. So our tight ends combined 2 catches for 13 yards. Which
Jelani also had a touchdown that was dropped.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like early on they tried to involve the tight ends.
He just couldn't get going. But defensively, Zaire Franklin, he's now the franchise tackle leader, and that's huge. I think he was a 6th, 7th rounder. He was pretty much relegated to this point to special teams, and they threw him in at the mic with Shaq Leonard going down, and he had an outstanding season. He had a sack in this game. Yep. He's had a couple of, I think, pass deflections that led to picks, and a couple of forced, punch out fumbles throughout the season. So he's played. He had a really good season. There's just, there's a lot of people saying that we need a whole roster rebuild, and I don't buy it. Like there's a lot of pieces that I think can be built around, especially when you talk about like Grover Stewart, Franklin, Buckner,
right?
Like that dude, he had an arm injury throughout the season, and it's like he could have phoned it in at any point. And there he was playing the final down of the season, and still going in a lost game, still out there giving it 100%. So, him and Franklin are the clear leaders of the team. But yeah, I don't see Foles or Ryan being back.
Yeah.
But I think Sam Ehlinger, he's going to be cheap, and I see him being like QB2 going forward for whoever the Colts draft.
Yeah. Yeah. You got any specific? You got anything that happened in the game that's gonna give you hope for maybe next year?
I mean, the Colts were finally getting turnovers. I mean, they had, I believe, they forced 3 turnovers. That's something to build on.
2 picks and a fumble.
Yeah. And like I said, that 1-2 combo with Moss and Taylor should be fun to watch. And hopefully they bring back Campbell and Campbell and Pierce, see what the new head coach and coordinator can do with them.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's go Texans with it. What was that? Where the hell was that? What? Why? Why? I don't even care about having the number 1 overall draft pick. Where was that all season? That was the most points we've scored in a single game this season. By like 8. Why? Now, a lot of people agree with the idea that Lovie Smith should have been fired, and he was bad for the organization. There's reports that he was very stubborn with position coaches and wouldn't change schemes so that they could potentially have players play better. The whole problem with this roster from the beginning of the season was that most of them didn't fit the mold for what Lovie Smith wanted to do. Hell, he admitted as much on the defensive front when he was a defensive coordinator. He said we had a roster where we didn't really have much, and we didn't have enough to where I could do the full capabilities of what I want to do on defense. We still can't, but we're a lot closer than we were. Something along those lines. I could be misquoting, but like Lovie Smith is a guy that his scheme, his culture, the way he does things takes time. You got to let him do things for a while. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, his time in Illinois, he was there 4 or 5 years, barely got him doing anything. Illinois sucks. They haven't been good. They weren't good before him. He got them to a better place. He got them to their first bowl game in like 13 years. They lost it, but they got there. You know? I mean, I don't know what everybody was assuming would happen when Lovie Smith went to Illinois. Just because he's Lovie Smith and was the Bears coach doesn't mean that every good player in the possible NCAA D1 level is going to be like, I'm going to Illinois now. That's what I'm going to do. No, it didn't happen like that. Okay? So, you got to give Lovie time. You didn't give him time. You did him wrong. Now we're going to end up paying this dude to do nothing for us in any way, shape, or form going into next season and probably all throughout the season, just the same way we paid David Culley $20 million to not be a coach this year. Like, this is the kind of like, and the argument could be made, oh, well, the owners have a lot of money and they don't really care about, spending money. What the is that? What? Of course they care about spending money. They want to spend money on people who are going to stick around. That's the goal. You hire a coach to make a bad program into a good one. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a single season, especially when the roster and the starters are either, have always been looked at as second tier football players. AJ Cann got cut from the Jaguars because he wasn't playing well. You don't get cut very often for any other reason. Like, let's just say somebody's getting paid $25 million to play left tackle. If they're playing at an elite level, they're going to find a way to keep you. You're only going to get cut if you're no longer worth that $25 million. That's the problem we have. We're trying to nickel and dime building a roster because of the cap restrictions that we had with Deshaun Watson. And then you're going to basically just be like, oh, well, you sucked. You're fired. What?
Yeah.
What?
I don't like what they did with him. Like it didn't seem like he was their choice last year. And they just kind of like had to. And you can't, like, once you do it, you're kind of stuck to that. Like, at least give it a chance. And if you're, I don't understand turnover like that. Like, there was signs of progress for the Texans. This was a roster on paper that was like, there's no way they're going to compete for anything.
Yeah,
they should get blown out of most games.
And I think we only got blown out of games like maybe 3 or 4 times this year, as compared to the season before under David Culley, where it was like 6, 7.
Yeah.
And the games that we were blown out in this year, the team that beat us only scored like 26 points. Yeah. We lost 40-0 to the Buffalo Bills 2 seasons ago. Yeah. We made progress. That's the difference in coaching. You know what I mean? Like, that's where Lovie came in. He built an attitude with these kids. The problem is, a lot of them don't fit what he tries to do. Now, especially on offense, where he's got to answer to other people. He's a defensive-minded coach. I get that. That's kind of the crippling part of it. You can't really develop a quarterback long-term with a defensive-minded head coach because the offensive coordinator is going to get a lot of the credit when the team does well. And then that offensive coordinator leaves, and so you got a new offensive coordinator every year or two, and they basically either have to mold to what the quarterback does or install their own system and hope it doesn't fuck them up. So, with that, I hope whoever they hire is an offensive-minded coach who can bring in a defensive coordinator who I wouldn't mind seeing if Raheem Morris doesn't get hired as a head coach, bring Raheem Morris over. And then everybody's trying to say, call Sean Payton, call Sean McVay, call all these people. They're not Like, no. Sean Payton, you're going to have to pay Sean Payton a king's ransom just to have a phone call.
And trade for him.
And trade for him.
Yeah.
Pass. I'm out.
Contract under the
And one of the other names, it's like a John Gannon. I think he's the defensive coordinator for the Eagles right now. He was available to be the coach last season. The Texans interviewed him, chose not to go with him. Now they're interviewing him again, and there's rumors that he might be the guy. In which case, why didn't you hire him last year?
Yeah.
Well, it's because of the Brian Flores lawsuit.
Yeah.
They didn't want to look like racist, so they hired Lovey. What is that? Folks, this dysfunction does not breed champion.
What the Texans did, if that is the case that they hired Lovie Smith for the this looks even worse than if they had just gone with the guy that they wanted. Like, we're gonna bring this guy in, make him move here, and then fucking fire him after a year with no roster and no chance. Like, that's even worse.
Yeah. The same thing with David Culley.
Yeah.
The people they interviewed last year was like Hines Ward, Josh McCown, John Gannon, Brian Flores, and Lovie Smith.
Yeah.
Two of those people have never coached. I don't.
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
so,
even with the Colts, like they're talking, it's like, I'd like to see Saturday back and give him a chance. And I'm like, the 7-game stint after the Raiders game was one of the worst coaching stints from a productive output, from like the point differential. Like, it was like historically bad.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason that no team has ever lost when they're up 33-0. It's never happened. There's a reason.
Yeah.
Like, you should, like, if he came back as a line coach, I'd be game for that. But no. Just, no.
Yeah.
Like, if you just even look in this Texan, I mean, it was a fun game. And
yeah.
I think in that last the preview episode we did, I'm like, I just want a fun, competitive game. And that's what it turned into.
Yeah.
It was fun. And it's like in that, but man, I felt bad. Like, Rodney Thompson, he should have had that last interception. Like,
yeah.
It just went right through his hands. But, you know, he had another one in the game already. But,
yeah,
you know, he actually played, I think, high school ball with DeMar Hamlin.
Oh,
so
nice.
He came out before this game and said, "Oh man, I'm playing for him." You know, you know. So he came out and actually had himself a game, and then just inches away from a game-sealing pick. So, but you know, I mean, because of it, the Colts moved up a spot, and they caused the Texans to move down a spot. So, kind of win.
I don't really think it matters. The Bears aren't going to draft a quarterback. Yeah. They need other players, offensive line help for sure. So, I feel, yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of things that they could do there, but a quarterback is not one of them, especially trading back is an option.
Yeah.
There's Texans fans out there that want us to trade up from 2 to 1, and I'm like, don't do that. All the capital we just got, yeah.
Trubisky.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
We would go from having flush first-round draft picks for the next 3 years or whatever to having this pick only just for moving up one spot. Like, I'm good. Hard pass. None of the quarterbacks are generational talents in this draft. Nobody's sitting there being like, Andrew Luck.
There's like a Luck or a Rodgers or something coming out of it, and you're like, fuck, I got to get him. I get that. Well, but there's no one in this draft that's worth that kind of capital to move up. There just isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's talent, but I'm not saying it's, it's a shitty, draft class. I'm just saying it's, like, if your objective is for quarterback, there's no one worth giving that kind of capital to move up. The Colts are saying it too. Colts fans, and I think I even watched like the main Indianapolis Colts podcast, and one of the guys was on there saying, we need to move up from the 4th to the 1st. And I'm like, well, why would you give up a king's ransom to get one of the top 3, which you're going to get anyway?
Exactly.
But I was speculating, and Would the Colts, like, especially because Eberflus, he was the Colts defensive coordinator, and we have what's his name? Um, God, he's been on IR. Kenny Moore,
Mm.
really good slot corner, fit really well in Eberflus's scheme. And it's almost the writing's already on the wall that that's probably where he's going to go after this.
Yeah.
Like the writing's there, but it's like, would it behoove us to maybe trade Shaq Leonard and Kenny Moore to the Bears to see if they'd be willing to play game for the first to add another pick? If that's in the cards, then I'd be willing to do it. But don't give up the fourth and all this other shit
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Because I think Franklin and Hurricane, then I think, we've got EJ Speed, Nick Cross that we took in the last draft. Like, I think, like, Shaq Leonard, I don't want to say he's a bad player or anything, but I think just the play of Franklin and Okereke and, all the up-and-coming young guys has made him movable. Like, do you package him with, like, Kenny Moore to the Bears to see how much they'd willing to play ball with their first pick? I don't know, but I think it's worth a phone call.
Yeah.
But don't give up your first round and, like, Quentin Nelson. It's like, no.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about doing, and it's like,
Yeah. See,
that's stupid.
The fans are trying to do this Madden style, and you got to think about this realistically. Like 6 of the quarterbacks taken number 1 overall in the last 15 years. Wait, no, in the last 20 years, maybe since 2000. 6 of them are not in the league anymore. Or they're like not sniffing the field. The rest of the first round quarterbacks, I think only for number 1 overall quarterbacks are not with the same team. It's only like 1, maybe 2 that's still with the same team. So if you're going to take a player that early, if you're going to take him at 2, you're drafting a talent that you know that you can't live without. You're drafting a generational player. You're drafting someone who's going to be a foundational piece. You don't take need that early in the draft. Yeah. Especially when you're prioritizing need over production or over some of the, like the fact that Bryce Young is smaller than the average toddler. Nah, he's not that small, but he's light, and that worries me, especially with how bad the interior of the offensive line's been.
His size.
Yeah, and I'm worried. I'll trust him a little bit more, I guess, when I know his hand size. That's going to be an issue because Joe Burrow might be the first person to win a Super Bowl with what is considered to be small hands.
I want to see like a Chris Collinsworth segment on Bryce Young's hands. Then I'll be convinced.
Bryce Young's hands. I love this kid. Bryce Young.
Hands.
His hands. Look at these hands.
Until you get a Chris Collinsworth segment on it. Ooh, I don't know about this guy.
Yeah. But look, y'all, Texans fans, Colts fans, just chill with the trading up thing. We don't want to do that. That's a terrible idea. You want to stay where you're at. You want to draft who falls to you. If you're going to have to take, the quarterback of the future, even though none of these guys are really going to be worth a damn, in my opinion. I think this is another class, kind of like, the class that Davis Mills came from, where there's, I'm trying to remember who the hell was in that class. Oh, Mac Jones. Yeah. I feel like that's where we're looking at. Trey Lance, Mac Jones, those guys. Some of those guys are just going to be one of those. And Mac Jones had a decent rookie year and then collapsed. Trey Lance didn't play at all his rookie year and then starts his sophomore season and then breaks himself. And then Jimmy Garoppolo has to come in, and then Brock Purdy, 7th round draft pick, comes in, hasn't lost a game since he started. So it doesn't really matter where you take a player. It matters the caliber of the player.
That's a great segue into, a lot of people want Chris Ballard gone. And I know he's tied to the offensive line issues and the quarterback carousel. Like, I get it. But this guy is like a stellar talent evaluator. Like, he is a great draft. Like, he got Franklin, I believe, in the seventh. What's his name? Was it Thomas or McLeod? One of those. Also seven.
Yeah.
It's like I believe they graded Shaquille Leonard pick the worst pick of the draft, and he was all pro. His first couple of years. Like,
Yeah.
like he hits way more than he misses, and I think that this might be his last year, and I think he's going to be tied to what happens. I feel like if he decides to go, sloppy seconds again, go for Carr or something like that, it'll probably be his last year, especially if we don't make the playoffs. But I think this will be his last year regardless, because that carousel has to end, and he's got to hit a quarterback, like, and hope that because I think Bryce Young will probably go to whoever trades up with the Bears if they trade back, or to the Texans. Like, I just feel like that's what's going to happen, which means I feel like the Colts are probably going to land Levis, maybe Stroud, but I feel like, if someone trades up, they're going to go Young. You guys might go Stroud, and that'll leave Levis. So I kind of feel like that's how it's, the cookies will crumble. But after that, man, they got to fix this freaking line. Like, there's a lot of needs on the offensive side.
Yeah.
And the defense, man, they held their own. They kept them in a lot of games. I hope that they find a way to bring Gilmore back. Like, he really regained that New England form. So I hope they bring him back. They might need to draft a corner or pick one up in free agency to kind of complement him, but they've got a lot of pieces and they got a lot of talent on defense.
Yeah.
So I don't think that this roster is as bad as it looks. Like, the last few weeks it looked. I don't think it's as bad as that is shown. Like, you lose Shaquille Leonard, you lose Kenny Moore, you lose Jonathan Taylor most of the year. Like, this, we've had some big name injuries.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And, you guys got it a lot better than Houston does. Houston has our best edge rusher is 35 years old starting next season.
That's the other thing. Like, if like Ngakoue, like, I think he's a free agent too. Like, he 9.5 sacks. He got hurt. I think he had a throat injury where he had to have a procedure done. But he's not very good against the run. In fact, I think I looked at some grading, and he's actually one of the worst defensive ends against the rush.
Yeah.
Good pass rusher, but that just kind of means that he needs to be relegated to game-specific situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another defensive end might be on the table, but you got Buckner, who flies all over. With his size, I don't understand how he moves around so fast. He's getting to the quarterback. He's making tackles on the outside. It's crazy. Like, he plays with a lot of speed. Grover Stewart had a career season, so it's maybe an edge rusher, maybe a corner, but really all the work needs to be done on offense.
Yeah. Houston could swing at any position essentially and probably hit an upgrade. We've got Christian Harris, who had a really good second half of the season at linebacker. Basically, everybody else is subject to change. Secondary wise, Stingley's coming back, Petrie's coming back. Everybody else is Desmond King, I think, has a 2-year deal, so I think he's back. But everybody else is subject to change.
Petrie's definitely a guy you build around.
Yes, especially now that he's switched to free safety and really found his footing. Still needs to work on his tackling, but that'll improve with time, or it won't. But and then again, edge rusher. We were hoping that Jonathan Grenard would be a thing. He got hurt, missed most of the season. Only ended up with like 3 sacks and that pick 6 against the Colts.
Yeah, that was just about
yeah. And then we have Malik Collins, a defensive tackle. He's going to be 28. Grenard's going to be 27. Jerry Hughes is going to be 35. I'll be surprised if he doesn't retire. Mario Addison's 34, 35. So we need edge rush help really bad. We need interior defensive linemen. It's Malik Collins and Roy Lopez. Everybody else, like Thomas Booker, didn't play that well. We had a bunch of other dudes that would come in off the practice squad, didn't do that well. Obviously, the interior, the offensive line needs help. We need a new center and a new right guard. And then we need another tight end because the ones that we have on the roster are hot garbage. With the exception of Tegan Quatoriano, had a really stellar game against the Colts this last game.
Yeah, like we let Woods and your tight ends just run all over. Like you can do shit on the ground, but your two tight ends and Robert Woods finally had again. I drafted him in fantasy, and that's the only good
Brandon
game he's
Cooks.
had. Yeah, Cook. Sorry.
Yeah.
I always get Woods and Cook. I don't know why I do that.
They
Cooks.
used to play together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always do that. But yeah, like he had a great game, so it was a great audition for his future team. And your tight ends, they tore the Colts defense apart.
No, Akins and yeah. Akins had a career resurgence. He's 30.
Yeah.
Tegan Quatoriano, he'll be 22 next season. Wide receiver room, it's Nico Collins, it's John Mechie if he's back from leukemia, and then that's basically it.
Yeah.
And then you got running back room, it's Damian Pierce. Everyone else subject to change. The entire quarterback room is subject to change. So
one thing that I never I didn't understand about you guys. There was a couple. I think it was a third down or two where the play was like designed to Burkhead.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
Why is he still on the team?
I don't know. I swear he's got blackmail on somebody. But I assume that he and Royce Freeman and Daria Gumbawale, all those guys will not be back. I assume that. I could be wrong, but whatever. So we have quite a lot of holes to fill. You can't go wrong picking any of those spots, and there are a lot of spots to fill. So again, I think the best draft strategy for the Texans is probably waiting until maybe the second round to draft a quarterback. Because I don't like the top three. I don't care.
Isaiah right now, Bryce Young, man.
Yeah, I know. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
Bryce Young, he's going Bryce Young.
Yeah, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. Anyway,
CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. That's what the Texans are doing.
Yeah, I know that's probably what they'll end up doing, but I'm just saying the best move is to draft whatever. Okay, so let's just say that the Bears keep their pick and they draft a defensive player. If they don't take if they don't take Carter, you take Jalen Carter from Georgia at number 2. He's good. He's young.
No, yeah, but
he's an upgrade.
Could you imagine the backlash though? Like,
I don't care. We have another first round draft pick.
True.
I mean, take Jalen Carter at 2. He's a player that immediately makes your defensive line better. And then at 10, that's where we are, is 10 with the Browns pick. So you can pick another quarterback there. There's another Stanford product. If you saw something in Max Duggan or definitely not Stetson Bennett, but God, what was that kid's name? I cannot remember the Stanford kid's name. He's the guy that they basically elected to start over Davis Mills in college as a young guy. Anyway, he would be interesting, but honestly, it's Hendon Hooker in the second round or third round. And that's the best move because you can still bring in someone else like Josh Dobbs to be a backup.
Tanner or what?
Huh?
Talking about Tanner or what? Stanford?
Yeah, it's a Stanford thing. So, look, I'm not. I don't trust Levis. I don't trust Stroud, and I don't trust Bryce Young to have even where Mac Jones is at. I don't think they're anything but like maybe glorified game managers in the NFL. Bryce Young's not known for Kyler Murray's speed, and he's Kyler Murray's size.
Yeah. Florida Anderson, is that his name? Quarterback? Got a rocket arm initiative. What's his name out of Florida?
Oh, Richardson?
Yeah, Richardson. Thank you.
Yeah, he's a redshirt sophomore.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a rocket arm, but like every other pass, it goes to the moon. So you don't really draft a project player that soon. You draft a project player in the later rounds.
Texans.
I think you could get Hendon Hooker in the second round, and it's a second round draft pick, so it doesn't hurt as bad as if he, flops. But he's older than Davis Mills. He's going to be a lot more mature than any of the other rookies. Obviously, because he's able to rent a car, and they're not. So I also think that because he transferred from different schools, had to learn different systems while also going to school, I think that'll actually help him in the long run in making, transfers with offensive coordinators. So I think that's what's going to have to happen because if we get D'Amico Ryans like the fans want, the offensive coordinator is going to screw up whatever quarterback we take. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because the coordinator is going to leave every year or two. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's hard to make it happen, but we're running out of time here. Jeff, you got any closing comments? We got about a minute.
No, they're taking Bryce Young. No, that's it.
Yeah. Look, I know they're going to take Bryce Young or whatever quarterback doesn't get taken by whoever trades up with the Bears. But I'm just saying the logical decision, because none of these guys are a Andrew Luck or a Trevor Lawrence, is to not draft them that early. Like, you can't draft for need that soon. You're going to screw everything else up. By the way, whoever the Colts or whoever the Texans hire, if he doesn't win 6 games, he's going to get fired again. So it's toxic culture, folks. Deal with it. Like and subscribe. Be good people.